Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing. As always, I'm your co-host, RJ at A Balanced Blue, joined by my fellow co-host and legendary mate, Scott the Gooner, Rob the Red Devil. As promised, we said we would bring you World Cup reactions, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this special edition, Socceroos France. For those that missed the result this morning, France high-flying 4, Socceroos valiant effort 1. Let's not muck around, boys. Scott, I'll go to you first. What did you make of it so far, mate?
Yeah, look, France are a force to be reckoned with, boys. They're a quality team, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that. I was seeing a lot of love for the South American teams in a lot of predictions. Not many people talking about France, and I think once you boys are taking the mick out of me in our group chat because I sent a message saying once Benzema was ruled out, I don't feel people were giving France the respect they deserve because they won a World Cup with Giroud. And once we unpack the game further, we'll talk about how important that guy was to them because I thought he was massively important. But, boys, let's look at the starting lineup. I've got it here, and let's try and systematically work through it. For those who may be new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe, like, share. We're trying to help this baby grow. Let's put up the lineup. Let's go from here. When I saw this lineup, I didn't have any big shocks. Were you shocked by anything, Robbie?
No, I thought the lineup was fine. Again, when I seen the formation, it says 4-3-3, I thought, that looks a bit, are we really going to play that system against France? But look, I think we did kind of change quite a few times. Like, I think the majority of the game we were playing nearly a 4-5-1. But, look, personnel-wise, I thought it was fine. I was happy with it. I didn't think, I would have liked to have seen maybe a Mobile, maybe start on the left. But, that Goodison played fine as well. And lucky.
RJ, obviously Mitch Duke, big friend of the show. We've had him on before. I actually thought he had a decent game. But were you kind of thinking, RJ, in your mind that you wanted us to kind of maybe be a bit more adventurous to see someone like Quoll maybe in the starting lineup? Or do you think this was a reasonable lineup?
No, I think to be fair and trying to be objective here, I think Arnie got the start up right. I think we played well to begin with. We absorbed that early onslaught, as you'd expect, given the dynamism, the speed and pace of Dembele and Mbappe. But once we weathered that storm, got a little bit of confidence, had a bit of composure and started to find some space in behind those high attacking wingers, we started to look a bit more comfortable. So I think the actual lineup itself was working as intended, to be honest. It started to become a bit more of a problem, ironically, after we took the lead.
Yeah, and look, let's talk about that, boys, because I know it was vibes for a short amount of time. I have a group chat with some other content creators from the UK, and they messaged me. They said, you must be buzzing. And I finally texted them back after the goal saying, yeah, boys, buzzing. Literally what happens, Giroud scores. And I texted back 30 seconds later, no longer buzzing. It was a really good goal. It was Goodwin hit it absolutely beautifully. No goalkeeper would have saved that. To bang it right into the top of the goal, it was a brilliant finish. Good to see an A-League player stepping up on that big stage and repping the league well. What was it like for you boys? I know I was at work. I got there early to watch this. I was just buzzing. RJ, surely, I know you two watched it together. I was not there. Some of us have to.
We were repping the IFT crew in your stead, Scott. You'd be proud to know that as soon as that goal went in, and let's also pay credit to that cross from Lecky as well. That's 100%. The kind of deliveries we want to see that gets in behind that defence. Yep. Poor marking, top-class finish from an A-League rising star. But the moment that hit the back of the net, it was a tough finish. That ball's coming at pace. He hit it first time. Lloris is no slouch. He's not the best, but top finish nonetheless. And it was just an amazing feeling. Robbie, how'd you feel?
Mate, you were there and my family was there. I think we looked a bit like Federation Square in Melbourne, mate, when I went in. I was in shock, mate. But look, it was such a good feeling. And that's why it was just such a big roller coaster ride for what came, not long after, because the 25 minutes was, honestly, I could never say we were flawless for 25 minutes up against the champions. We were switching the ball, we were stretching and we were passing, making little triangles. I just don't understand why we kind of went back into a shell so quick after we're obviously like...
Moy was in total control. Hey, Rob, we were saying dictating.
100%. But then after that 25-minute mark, I don't know if we just got scared or we just wanted to sit back and we showed them too much respect. But, mate, they just were all over us. Like everything completely changed, just a complete implode from Australia.
A couple of comments from the chat here, boys. Shano reflecting on the match. So not much to take away. Simply came up against a world-class side. He takes it. The Goodwin needs to play every game. Hrustic to come in. Moy to be dropped. I actually think that's a little bit harsh on Moy. I feel tactically, France didn't panic once we scored. Like watching it, I was sitting there, and you boys know that I have my head around this French squad. They didn't panic. And this is what champion squads do. They simply started to play smart balls. They overran us in the midfield. They pressed us into submission. And I just think we almost needed some more backup in the middle of the park. I think it was hard for Moy to continue to dominate when France turned up the press and started to overload the midfield. They have very good midfielders, even without Kante and Pogba. So I actually think we lost the battle there. And I'll get your views in a sec, boys. A couple of other little comments. We've got Emad saying, Robbie and the wife beater, it's a football thing. We love Singlet Rob. No idea how Beige continues to play. What exactly does he offer? And then here from Tom, we're right to dissect everything and many things are highlighted. But at the end of the day, France should be beating us 4-1. And yeah, look, I agree. What maybe disappointed you, Robbie, about the performance?
For me, it was us not learning from our mistakes, because once France exposed our weakness, which was obviously on Mbappe's side, obviously Nathaniel, they targeted Nathaniel Atkinson all game. Like once they got once or twice. Look, he had one of the hardest jobs in the world, marking Kylian Mbappe, one of the best players in the world. But mate, once they went down, 28 crosses went into the box, and nearly every cross was the same. Go to the byline, cross it, cut back into literally the penalty spot every time. If it was low, if it was high, they've done the same move, and Australia didn't adapt to it. And that's why I couldn't get my head around. Why are we doing the same thing? Look, the first goal from them was just you couldn't defend that. It was just beautiful. The cross and the finish from Adrian Rabiot. The second one is, I really got mad on that because we really just played into their hands. Why are we trying to play out from the back?
You called it, Rob, as well. Sorry to interrupt, but you said it. Why are they doing this?
I literally 10 seconds before the goal happened, as soon as Matt Ryan played it out, I'm like,
silly.
I said, why are we playing out from the back? We forced pressure on ourselves. Bang! As soon as the French got the ball, I said, this is the goal. Within 5 minutes, the game turned on its head. We went from 1-0 up to 2-1 down. And then from there, we were always like, were we going to be brave enough to chase the game? Look, we barely touched the ball from then on. Mitch Duke was isolated up front by himself. They were in total control. They didn't barely have to even move, mate. Australia were running.
We had a few half moments, but didn't we, Rob? I was just thinking about Dukey because he was isolated. But on another day, his long-range effort goes in on the other side of the post, and that's a screamer of a goal. Or look at Rabiot's header, beautiful goal again, and also the same Giroud in the second half. But Jackson Irvine, his header, mistimed, it hits the post. Again, another day, it goes in on the other side of the post. So it wasn't meant to be, but we did lose a little bit of that courage, like you said.
Yeah.
RJ, Robbie mentions Atkinson as something that maybe disappointed him. And look, we can acknowledge no one in the world is going to have a great time marking Mbappe. So, I mean, criticism, yes, but also a bit of reality as well. We don't have, and I was saying this on the phone to another mate, not one player in our team even makes the French bench. Not one player in our team even makes their bench. So there is a gulf in quality. And I think for me, something that disappointed me was just the way that with France, I said they conceded and they were calm. I felt we lost that calmness. We started to panic. And after we scored, we went within ourselves. We almost looked like we were going to try and hold the lead for the rest of the game. You're not doing that against France. You've got to present some kind of counter-attacking threat. And that's where someone like a Qual would have been brilliant on. To say, all right, no worries, attack us, but we're going to belt the ball to this guy and he'll get up there. He's quick. Sometimes I think you've just got to be more direct as well and play to our strengths. We're not technically gifted. That's what disappointed me a little bit. RJ, what about you, man? What's
I think so. I said that to Rob. When we took that lead, it's like there's still a long way to go for this match. You couldn't just try to defend it. It was very unlikely we're going to get a Saudi Arabia type heroics, resilience, because that was phenomenal on a side note. But for us, what was working was not just the bravery element, but the ability to try to play a bit more direct and long and try to hit those diagonal cross balls into the channels, which if it doesn't work out, there's low risk because the ball's on that side of the pitch and it pins them back so they can't attack you. And if it works out, we get the Lecky situation. There was a few times where we did get in behind on those flanks, but let's face it, this France side, while heavily stacked in the midfield and attacking areas, they did have some question marks. Upamecano and Konate aren't the best centre-back pairing in this competition. They're good, but they're not the best. And we didn't test them enough, and that's what annoyed me. But I think what really annoyed me the most was not only was the game still in the balance at 2-1, tactically and personnel-wise, we didn't adjust in time. We were reactive, 100%. Not proactive. And I jokingly said in the group chat after 4-1, he made the substitutes. That's actually quite proactive from Arnie because I was being sarcastic. But I think it was a missed opportunity. I thought there was something to be grabbed there, or at least to not be as emphatic as it was. So that's what disappointed me the most.
Let's flip the conversation then, RJ, because you said you felt changes needed to happen. What would you have changed? Like, answer that in two parts, because our next game is up against Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
What would you have changed in this match against France? And do you think we'll see a different approach for the game on Saturday night?
Yeah, so what I would have done firstly was made the changes earlier. Firstly, I would have, and I'm a big fan of Mitch, but I thought he sacrificed himself for the team, and that wasn't the game plan that was working. So I would have brought him off, would have brought Cole on. I would have brought off Jackson Irvine at the time because he was making a lot of fouls and got himself booked, of course, and I would have brought on Hurstich earlier. So I think we needed to get more time to allow these players to be able to feel themselves into the game. I understand what Shane was saying before about Moy. What annoys me about him is he's playing very much similar to how like Ross Barkley was playing with that whole possession style maintenance and circulating the ball. That's the way to play when you're winning convincingly, not chasing the game. Be a little bit more daring. Try to play the first time pass over the top. Give someone to run into some space in the channels, not just get the ball, stop, look around, try to be cute. It was just not the right decision-making. So I think that's what I would have done. And hopefully for next game, because let's be honest, the elephant in the room is we're not going to be up against the same sort of star power for the remaining fixtures. So there was much of what we did this morning that would have worked against inferior opponents.
Not just that. When we did put them your Mobile and your Qual on, and I think they had a one or two opportunities when we actually put the ball in behind and they got it. By the time they got up there was no support, and what did they do? Play it straight back to Matt Ryan again. The amount of passes that were negative today, honestly, Matt Ryan, besides pulling it out of his net, he must have had the most touches with his feet because they were just scared. Everything, as soon as we looked like we were attacking at one point, Moy put his foot on the ball, play it back to halfway, play it back to Matt Ryan. I'm like, you just let the whole defense reset, and then we're not going to pick them apart. So every little opportunity in the second half, which when they had one or two or three of them, we had to do everything we could to get it. And then when we did, we just went backwards and played into their hands again. So for me, look, I think he will definitely make quite a few changes against Tunisia. He even said that in his post press day. He said we've got 20-man squad. They're going to have a different approach. Obviously, we're going to have to go all out for this one. This is the best opportunity. And look, helped out a little bit by the result previously. Tunisia, Denmark, for us was a good result, 1-1. If all plans out, we actually need the French to probably do Denmark, and we have to win this next game. And then it puts it in our hands for the last day playing Denmark.
And look, we know by then, I believe France are going to beat Denmark. And if that's the case, all they've got to do then is chillax against Tunisia. So Tunisia, for and against wise, you would expect they're probably not going to get drilled the same way we did. But look, boys, we've just had an opportunity to share some of the things that maybe disappointed us, talk about the tactics. That's something that a certain Mr. Harry Kuehl had an opportunity to do. His commentary was a hot topic. It was something that was well talked about. Some people saying he was going in too hard. Some people loved it. What did you make of the commentary? Do you think Kuehl stepped out of line, Robbie?
A little bit. As we all like to say, it's easier talking from watching the screen and stuff like that. If I remember rightly, when he was on that pitch, even back in 2006 in the Golden Generation, I'm sure people were screaming it like it's very much easier to talk about it than to do it, especially up against an opposition like France. So again, I thought he was, some of the things he was saying was right, especially how we were being so negative, like I was saying before. But some of it was saying, hey, mate, look, there's a big, massive difference in quality here. And RJ talked about it previously during the week. We weren't even really that, brave in the second half. And that's when we got belted in the second half, really. We went in at 2-1 down. And they could have scored more than the 2 goals in the second half. Like, Matt Ryan did end up making 1 or 2 saves. Again, a couple unlucky, Kylian Mbappe, I reckon, could have had nearly a hat-trick. They had a couple little offsides here. So they were unlucky not to probably score 6 or 7 if we're being lucky. So, yeah, look, again, I think it's a little bit harsh considering the opposition. If we play like that against the Tunisia, okay, I think it's going to be a little bit more realistic what he's saying.
RJ, what do you make of it? Rob thinks Kill was a little bit harsh. I'll let you know where I line up in a sec, but I'd love to know where you line up, Mr. Balanced Blue.
Well, I'm probably somewhere in the middle, but I actually thought it was refreshing to hear someone with credibility that's been in that environment, that understands what it's like to be the underdog up against a juggernaut. And I think he was just being authentic. I think if he watches it back over and ponders on it and thinks I was probably a little bit harsh at times and didn't respect who they were really up against, and considering the climate, which I know some people on this show don't want to talk about too much, but all of those things considered, I thought it was refreshing to hear someone that's been there, done that, is authentic and doesn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, a bit harsh, but sometimes, you know what? It's good to call it how it is, but I don't think he crossed any lines or anything. I'm perfectly fine if he continues the way he goes down.
I actually like what Bozza said, if anyone heard his quotes up there. He goes, okay, it's against France, but he goes, Australia needs a little bit walk and step up a little bit more in general.
A bit more bravery,
in general, but he goes, we keep saying like, oh, we're going to keep, we went into this, we got a plan, we went in. He goes, out of the 5 World Cups, we've had one time we've made it into the round of 16. He goes, we keep saying that, oh, we've done a great job against France. We've got to go out now against a Tunisia and a Denmark, step up and actually play and deserve to win that, because it's every time it's the same thing. Oh, we had a good 25 minutes. Well, 25 minutes isn't enough in a 90-minute game.
Enough.
For me, that's what I mean. I'm not happy. 25 minutes we played well, but the rest of the game was crap, in my opinion. We need to really step up.
I think a lot of the people who are really outraged by what Harry Kill said have brought that upon themselves. There were a lot of people going into this game with levels of delusion that were insane. Like, I understand having hope, yeah? We were all hoping that Australia would get a result. But to put your chest out like a lot of people did and say, nah, we're going to take this, we're confident, this French squad is weak, they're decimated by injuries. I'm sorry, but again, not one player, let this sink in, not one player from our squad would make their squad, even the bench.
I do think the Argentina game, Scott, had something to do with people's delusional sort of optimism, because who would have called that? Really?
No, but people were doing this before the Argentina game, right?
Yeah,
there was a lot of, and again, I get that you're excited. I get that we all wanted to see the same thing. But I was under no illusions that we weren't going to beat France. France have way too much quality for us across all elements of the pitch. They were bringing on players who would have been the best player in our history.
Coleman, for example.
Amazing players. So I just think a lot of people who were outraged by Kuhl were also kind of reeling from the fact that they must have gone in with this sense of false hope, and then it's been crushed, and then Harry Kuhl's talked about it. But you've got to be critical, because let's face it, we scraped qualification. Graham Arnold, for me, has been uninspiring for a very long time. I don't think he's the guy for the job. And for the reason that you mentioned, Robbie, I think he's too negative. We've got some attacking weapons like Qual. I want to see him come on. So, look, we move on, onwards and upwards. We've got the...
You know what, Scott? I was just going to say, just quickly as well, with Harry Kuhl, you've also got to question the motivation. I think his heart's in the right place. He's represented the country. He would have been hurting seeing us be cut up and decimated in that second half, knowing what it could have been based on how we started. So I think, yeah, he could have been a bit critical and a bit harsh, but I think it's because he cares. He's not just a reporter with no affinity to the country. This guy's represented us on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
It hurts us as fans. Imagine what it hurts him as being an ex sort of star. So 100%. I think that's also important to reflect on too when you're criticizing him.
Yeah, boys, look, onwards and upwards. We've got a match on Saturday night, a big match, a match that we do have a chance of getting something out of. I'm not going into this one thinking what I thought going into this morning's match. Let's end the stream, boys, because this is a quick reaction, but let's end with one positive. What's one thing that you saw this morning that you're taking heart from going into the next match, Robbie? One thing.
No, I'm just going to say the first 25 minutes, if that's allowed.
Fair shout. Fair shout. RJ?
Some passages of passing exchange. I thought there were moments we looked good, man. So I think, again, against better opposition, those passing exchanges become more frequent and I say more successful.
For me, I would say the fact that we were able to create some chances against France. Like you said, there were a few times when we were really unlucky not to score. The fact that we created those kinds of chances, if we can create some against France, I would expect that we can create some against Denmark and Tunisia.
The fact that we scored a goal from open play, for me, honestly, I'm not taking the piss. I think that's an accomplishment considering the last World Cup. We scored 2 or 3 penalties. For us to create that opportunity against a team like France, like it just gave me hope, at that time that we could maybe get something from the game. But like I said, if we play like that same mentality and with a few more attacking changes against Tunisia, I'm hoping for a better result, hopefully.
That's right. That's right. Look, boys, before we wrap this up, thank you to everyone in the live chat. If you're watching this back, leave a comment. Let us know maybe what stood out for you in a positive way, what concerns you most. We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. We will be back after match week 1. We'll iron out those details, but keep an eye on our social media. The schedule is a little bit all over the place because of this crazy thing called a FIFA World Cup. Until then, stay cool. Don't get too cold like they are in the stadiums, and enjoy your football. We go again at 9 o'clock tonight, don't we, boys? Croatia and
Croatia.
I'm going live directly for Everton Wanderers game. I'm going in the flesh.
Well, you go and enjoy watching Frank Lampard uninspired football, mate. You might fall asleep. Anyway, Take care, everyone. Enjoy your football. We'll see you back again after match week 1. Look after yourselves.
Ciao.